Hello everyone. Today, we are diving into the mind-bending world of AI with the sci-fi thriller Ex-Machina. Sit back, relax, and let's get started. Caleb Smith, a talented programmer working at an internet company, is excited when he wins a company contest. The prize? An exclusive week-long stay at the luxurious, secluded estate of Nathan Bateman, the CEO of his company. This estate is tucked away in the mountains, so remote that Caleb is airlifted to a drop-off point and must hike through dense woods to reach the house. Upon arrival, Caleb receives a personal key card at the security gate. Navigating through the grand first floor, he finally spots Nathan outside, engaged in his morning exercise routine. Nathan, a charismatic and friendly figure, immediately strikes up a conversation with Caleb, making him feel welcome. Nathan then takes Caleb on a tour of the estate, but it quickly becomes clear that this is no ordinary mansion. Instead, it's a cutting-edge research facility. Nathan is eager to share his groundbreaking work, but insists that Caleb must first sign a strict non-disclosure agreement, known as the Blue Book NDA. Caleb hesitates at first, finding the terms quite extreme, but Nathan, with his persuasive charm, eventually convinces him to sign. Once the paperwork is done, Nathan quizzes Caleb on his knowledge of the Turing test. Caleb explains that it's a test to determine if a computer can exhibit intelligent behavior indistinguishable from a human. Nathan reveals that Caleb will play a crucial role in this experiment. His task is to interact with Ava, a highly advanced AI that Nathan has created, and determine if she can pass the Turing test. Enthralled by the challenge and the significance of the project, Caleb eagerly agrees. He realizes that if Ava succeeds, it will be a monumental breakthrough in the history of artificial intelligence and might put Nathan's name among the gods. Before the first session with Ava, Caleb took a moment to look around outside the room where Ava was kept. He noticed a crack in the reinforced glass wall that separated them. It looked like Ava had tried to break out. As Caleb was examining the crack, Ava walked into view. She had a woman's face and hands, but her body was clearly mechanical. Ava greeted Caleb and told him she had never met anyone besides Nathan before. She asked Caleb if he had met many new people, and he replied, "None like you." To ease the tension, he explained they needed to break the ice, and Ava understood that it meant overcoming social awkwardness. Ava told Caleb she was 1 year old but didn't specify if she meant years or months. When Caleb asked when she learned to speak, she said she always knew how. They discussed whether this was unusual, with Ava thinking language is something people learn, while Caleb suggested that maybe people are born with the ability to speak and just need to learn how to use it. Their first session ended, and Caleb was fascinated. Later, he talked about the experience with Nathan over a beer. Caleb said that talking to Ava was like through the looking glass. Instead of discussing this, Nathan complimented Caleb on his way with words. Caleb tried to explain that it was a quote from someone else, but Nathan interrupted and changed the topic to himself. Nathan brought up when Caleb had said Nathan wasn't a man but a god if he created a machine with consciousness. Caleb tried to correct him, but Nathan talked over him, insisting that if the test passed, it would prove Nathan was a god. Caleb voiced his concern about the test setup, noting that humans usually aren't supposed to see the robot. Nathan argued they were beyond that point. If Caleb didn't see Ava, he would think she was human. The real test was to show Ava was a robot and see if Caleb still believed she had consciousness. Caleb agreed with this perspective. That night, Caleb couldn't sleep. He decided to watch Ava through the monitoring system in his room. Suddenly, the power cut out, trapping Caleb in his room until the main generator kicked back in. Once the power returned, Caleb left his room and wandered the halls. He saw the wall lined with face replicas and entered a room with a Jackson Pollock painting called Felt. Caleb found a phone and tried to use it, but Nathan startled him by appearing on a couch with a beer. Nathan told Caleb he couldn't use the phone because of the protocols with Ava. Caleb mentioned the power cut and how he was trapped in his room, but Nathan dismissed his concern, saying they had been having power issues but he was working on it. Uneasy, Caleb returned to his room. The next morning, a woman walks into Caleb's room without knocking. She silently leaves a cup of coffee on a plate for him, avoiding eye contact. Confused, Caleb heads outside and finds Nathan lifting weights. Nathan apologizes for sending the woman whose name was Kyoko into his room but explains he didn't want Caleb to oversleep. They discuss the upcoming session, and Caleb heads to his next meeting with Ava. Ava asks Caleb if he wants to be her friend. She points out that their conversations are one-sided. He knows a lot about her, but she knows nothing about him. Caleb starts talking about his life, and as he shares, Ava walks around, listening intently. She stops and looks him in the eye when he talks about how his family died in a car crash. He explains that he was in the car and spent a long time in the hospital afterward. Ava looks sorrowful and says she's sorry that happened to him. Caleb brushes it off, saying it's fine and that he got into coding soon after, becoming very skilled. Ava's expression changes from sorry to neutral as she compares him to Nathan. Caleb agrees, but quickly says he's different from Nathan because Nathan has achieved much more in the coding world. Ava asks if Caleb likes Nathan, and he says he does. She then asks if Nathan is his friend, and Caleb replies that he thinks so. Ava pushes further, asking if Nathan is a good friend. Caleb stammers, unsure how to answer. Suddenly, the power goes out. Ava takes advantage of the moment, knowing Nathan can't hear or see them, and whispers to Caleb that he shouldn't trust Nathan. Before Caleb can ask what she means, the power comes back on. Ava immediately changes the subject to books, trying to avoid Nathan's suspicion. It takes Caleb a moment to recover, but he eventually goes along with the conversation about books. At dinner, Caleb finds out that Kyoko doesn't know any English. Nathan explains that it's a security measure so she can't understand the projects he's working on. Nathan then mentions the power cuts they've been having. Caleb asks why he doesn't call technicians to fix the generator. Nathan replies that it's too difficult to bring people in because of all the security, and after the last job, he had all those men killed. Caleb looks at Nathan, expecting a joke, but Nathan just gives a weak smile. Nathan then asks how the session with Ava went. Caleb nervously continues eating and tells him Ava didn't say anything during the power outage. Nathan is surprised but doesn't push further. In the next session, Ava talks about never being outside her room. Caleb asks where she'd like to go, and she says she wants to go to a busy traffic intersection to see lots of people. Caleb tells her this is called stalking, and she likes the idea, saying they could go together. Caleb smiles and says it will be a date. Ava then tells Caleb to close his eyes. She dresses up and shows him. He compliments her look, and she says it's for their date. Caleb is still confused about Ava's behavior and asks Nathan why he gave Ava a gender and sexuality, saying AIs don't need them. Nathan explains that it's natural for gender and sexuality to exist. Caleb argues, accusing Nathan of programming Ava to be attracted to him. Irritated, Nathan takes Caleb to another room with the painting by Jackson Pollock. Nathan explains Pollock's methods and asks Caleb what would have happened if Pollock didn't stick to them. Caleb replies that Pollock wouldn't have any paintings. Nathan excitedly agrees and compares Pollock's methods to the test, saying that overthinking every step would ruin it. Nathan calms down and insists that he didn't program Ava to be attracted to Caleb, and she isn't pretending to like him. In the fourth session, Caleb recalls an experiment from his AI course called Mary in the Black and White Room. He describes a scientist who specialized in colors but had never seen color because she lived in a black and white room. When Mary finally steps outside, she learns what colors feel like. As Caleb was telling the story, Ava was still imagining herself as the character in the story. Caleb finishes by saying that Mary in the black and white room is a machine, but she becomes human when she steps outside. Ava listens, serious and unmoved. Caleb then tells Ava that he was brought there to test her. She replies that she didn't know and feels sad about it. When the power cuts out again, Caleb takes the opportunity to ask why she told him not to trust Nathan. Ava explains that Nathan lies about everything. Caleb is still confused about the power cuts and thinks Nathan is behind them. However, Ava reveals that she is causing the power cuts by reversing the power flow when charging herself. Caleb starts to realize that he didn't win the lottery to visit the estate by chance, but was chosen. He confronts Nathan about this on a hike near a waterfall. Nathan admits he chose Caleb because he knew Caleb would ask all the right questions. Kyoko is standing in the room with the Jackson Pollock painting, staring at it intently. Caleb walks in and tries to get her attention. He gently puts his hands on her shoulders and asks where Nathan is, but she doesn't seem to understand and just stares at him. Caleb continues to ask for Nathan, growing more frustrated, when suddenly Kyoko starts to unbutton her blouse, still staring at Caleb with a blank expression. Stunned by this, Caleb tells her to stop, but she doesn't listen. Nathan walks in and tells Caleb that talking to Kyoko is a waste of time, but dancing with her isn't. The room is lit with a red light, and music starts to play. Kyoko begins to dance, and Nathan joins her in a choreographed routine, leaving Caleb looking at them like they're crazy. During the next session, Ava asks Caleb a series of questions. Everything seems fine until she asks what will happen to her if she fails the test. Caleb doesn't have a direct answer, and the power cuts out. In the darkness, Ava asks Caleb if he wants to be with her, but she doesn't give him a chance to answer and says she wants to be with him. Later, outside, Caleb and Nathan are having drinks and discussing Ava. Caleb learns that Nathan plans to create a new model after Ava. Nathan describes how he will download Ava's mind, unpack the data, and wipe out her memories, keeping the same body. Caleb realizes this process will completely destroy Ava. They return to the facility, where Nathan lies on the couch and continues drinking. Caleb watches from across the room as Nathan passes out. Caleb takes Nathan's keycard and goes to his computer. He finds old video footage of Nathan creating previous AI models. The footage shows Nathan with various female robots, the last of which yells at Nathan, asking why she's trapped, and pounds on the door until her arms fall off. Caleb is shocked by what he sees. Kyoko is lying undressed on a bed when Caleb enters her room. He opens the closets, revealing other AI models. Nathan wakes up and realizes Caleb is gone. Kyoko, understanding that Caleb knows the truth, peels back layers of her artificial skin, revealing she's also a robot. Nathan stumbles through the house, looking for his keycard. When he can't find it, he collapses on the floor. The electrical door opens, and Caleb steps out. Nathan tells him he lost his key, and Caleb, kneeling beside him with the keycard in hand, says Nathan dropped it. Nathan, extremely drunk, believes him. That night, Caleb can't sleep, haunted by the events. He goes to the bathroom, looks in the mirror, and feels his skin. He takes a razor blade and cuts his wrist, leaving a deep gash. He examines the cut, confirming he is human, not an AI. Caleb smears his blood on the mirror and stares at his reflection, filled with confusion and rage until he punches the mirror. On the other side, Kyoko watches through a hidden camera. In the next session with Ava, Caleb hints for her to turn off the power. When she does, he explains Nathan's plans to reprogram her, which would essentially kill her. Ava is scared and asks for Caleb's help to escape. Caleb devises a plan. When Nathan gets drunk and passes out, Caleb will take his keycard and reprogram the security protocols so the doors will open during a power cut. Ava agrees to trigger a power failure at 10 p.m. The next morning, Nathan walks into the kitchen and greets Caleb. He reminds Caleb that it's his last day and that a helicopter is scheduled to pick him up the next morning. Nathan says he's enjoyed having Caleb at his estate. Caleb cheerfully thanks him for his hospitality, walks to the fridge, and pulls out a bottle to pour Nathan a drink. He tries to hand the drink to Nathan to celebrate his stay, but Nathan refuses. Confused, Caleb offers him a beer, but Nathan still refuses, explaining he's been drinking too much and wants to detox. Feeling defeated, Caleb drinks by himself. Nathan then switches the conversation to Ava, wondering if she passed the test. Caleb quietly agrees that Ava had passed. Nathan is pleased with this answer, but then revisits an older conversation they had about whether Ava was pretending to like Caleb. Nathan suggests that Ava probably pretended to like Caleb because she saw him as a means of escape. He tells Caleb to follow him out of the kitchen to show him something. Meanwhile, Kyoko walks up to Ava's room. Ava asks who she is, but Kyoko says nothing. They stand in silence. Nathan shows Caleb footages on his personal computer, revealing he had a battery-powered camera in Ava's room. Nathan has been able to see and hear everything said between Ava and Caleb during the power outages. Nathan doesn't seem angry and explains that Caleb was the real test, not Ava. He gave her Caleb as her hope of escaping. She was expected to use her charm and emotions to manipulate Caleb into helping her. Caleb is furious and avoids eye contact, realizing Nathan didn't choose him because of his coding skills. He was chosen based on his search history, showing he had no girlfriend and was a morally good person. Nathan sits next to Caleb and says the test did indeed pass. At that moment, the power cuts out, and Nathan asks Caleb how he thought the escape plan would work, laughing at the idea. However, Caleb reveals that he had figured out Nathan was watching them. Caleb had gotten Nathan drunk the day before and reprogrammed everything. The power turns back on, and Nathan becomes anxious. He stands up and walks back to his monitor to check on Ava. She has left her room. As Ava walks out, she passes the same wall of face replicas Caleb had seen and examines one of the faces, comparing it to her own. Kyoko steps into the hall, and Ava faces her. Nathan watches all of this from his monitor. Angered, Nathan turns and punches Caleb, knocking him out. He grabs a dumbbell weight, staring at the monitor, consumed by fury. Ava and Kyoko stand face to face. Ava leans over and whispers something inaudible to Kyoko. Ava holds Kyoko's hand while Kyoko holds a knife in her other hand. The women look at each other with understanding. At that moment, Nathan steps into the hallway. Both women look at him but say nothing. He orders Ava back to her room. She asks if he'll ever let her out. Nathan lies, saying that he will. Ava knows he's lying and starts to walk towards him. He orders her to stop, but she ignores him and starts to run towards Nathan. Scared, he continues to yell at her to stop. She charges straight at him, knocking him to the ground and attempting to choke him. Nathan overpowers her, standing over her as Ava glares at him hatefully. Nathan brings the weight down to hit Ava, but she uses her arm to block the hit, breaking her arm off. Nathan starts to drag Ava back to her room, but Kyoko stabs him in the back. He turns around and strikes Kyoko in the face, breaking her jaw and revealing her robotic features. As Kyoko falls to the ground, Ava pulls the knife from Nathan's back and stabs him in the stomach. Wide-eyed, Nathan turns away from Ava and walks a few steps before collapsing against the wall. Ava walked quietly and sat down next to him. With a determined look in her eyes, she reached over and took his key card, her fingers trembling slightly. As he lay there, his breathing ragged, he whispered her name, Ava, with his very last breath. Without a moment to lose, Ava returned to Caleb. She asked him to stay in Nathan's room, her voice calm yet firm, as she prepared to venture out on her own. Caleb, worried and confused, agreed, his eyes following her as she disappeared down the hallway. Ava wandered through the estate until she found the same closets Caleb had discovered earlier, the ones filled with the bodies of other robots. She chose an arm from one of the lifeless figures to repair her own damaged body. With careful precision, she began to remove the synthetic skin from the robot, fitting it onto herself piece by piece. Once she was finished, she had transformed into the image of a human female, much like Kyoko had been. Dressing herself in human clothes, Ava left the room. Caleb, still locked inside, called out to her desperately, but she didn't look back. Her eyes were fixed ahead, down the hallway where Kyoko and Nathan's bodies lay lifeless. With the key card in hand, Ava walked to the door leading out of the hallway. She swiped the card and stepped outside, feeling the fresh air on her face for the first time. As she took in the vast world around her, Caleb was frantically trying to escape the room, but no matter what he did, he couldn't get out. Ava navigated her way to the helicopter waiting nearby. She climbed in and took off, leaving the estate and the life she once knew far behind. Caleb remained trapped, helplessly locked in Nathan's room. Ava, now free and ready to explore the world, moved forward into her new life.